When was the last time that you or a family member needed care from a hospital? You likely didn't question the security of that medical facility, but tonight you may start asking some questions. For nearly a month, a teenager posed as a medical professional and gained access to 2 hospitals here in Corpus Christi. And that's just one thing police say that he faked. In a story that reads more like a movie, using video witness statements and police documents gathered by CCPD detectives, investigative reporter Brian Hoffman tonight explaining how he did it and the mistake he made that got him caught.
Hey, come in. Thanks for stopping by. I got a story for you. I've been working on it for a couple months now. Have you ever seen Catch Me If You Can? What about Doogie Howser, MD? Well, fiction, right? Not quite. This story involves a mix between the two of them and a 17-year-old kid named Zachary Bailey.
His past is a little fuzzy, but from what I was able to uncover, in March of last year, he performed a type of bank fraud to purchase a $52,000 BMW and drive it from Missouri down to Corpus Christi 2 days later to visit his then 15-year-old girlfriend.
There was already an investigation into bank fraud before this kid made his way to Corpus Christi, and it's unknown exactly how he was even funding this endeavor. But that's just the start, as the real story starts at a shop called Scrubs R Us. Now, Bailey came here to Scrubs R Us to purchase $41 worth of scrubs, those commonly used by medical professionals like these. This smaller transaction only comes after a larger transaction was, quote, declined multiple times. And once he did have scrubs in hand, Bailey's next stop was the hospital. 17-year-old Bailey, now donning the proper disguise, made his way inside Corpus Christi Medical Center Bay Area. And he told staff there that he was a traveling physician's assistant and asked for a badge. Either by luck or by his design, the main HR management wasn't there. Only the volunteer staff coordinator was at the desk to make badges. She admitted she had her reservations, but was told by management to just always make badges for staff that needed it.
They basically beat it into our heads that we need to be all about customer service. So I was like, okay, well, if you send me a picture, then I can get your badge started for you.
She told investigators that she informed her supervisors in HR about the incident that same day, especially with Bailey's apparent age. But nothing came of it.
I mean, I've known people that are really young that, you know, one, they just don't age hardly at all, and two, I mean, they just are really smart so that they can get through college faster. Right. So I was trying to not hold that against them.
With badge in hand and a disguise as a medical professional, Bailey was able to access the Corpus Christi Medical Center hospitals, like Bay Area and Doctors Regionals, including the emergency room areas, intensive care units, operating rooms, cath labs, and nursery units.
I don't know what his motive would be with babies, but I mean, yeah, that's scary that he could even get up there. And
those PAs, they can diagnose, they can write orders, they can do treatments, they can do procedures. You know, what if they give you some random medication for a patient and it harms them?
Bailey was also seen entering into doctors' lounges and changing rooms in one pair of scrubs or just plain clothes, and then exiting in CCMC scrubs or even doctor's coats.
Definitely not comfortable knowing that somebody was able to do that.
Using his scrubs and badge from CCMC, Bailey also gave false information to obtain residency at this apartment complex, stating that he made $28,000 a month. As staff tells me, he also frequently went in his scrubs and also gave them gift baskets filled with things like Apple Watches. Ultimately, though, it was Bailey's frequent visit to hospitals that was his undoing.
From March 31st to April 28th, he came and went without anyone seeming to notice. That is, until one night he decided to hang around the ICU chatting with a few nurses.
He was asking them about other doctors that work there, talking about the other nurses. He was talking about his girlfriend. He was talking about his cars and just all sorts of stuff. And just the more they were telling me that he was talking about, the more I was like, okay, something's not right.
I don't know if he was specifically asking for access for the computer, but he was just mentioning that he doesn't have access, which we need a 3-4 ID, and he was asking how he gets access.
And in another instance, he even made a slip up, which wasn't caught initially, but in hindsight, it appeared something just wasn't quite right.
Or he said it's a community college by Mizzou. called Stevens College. And in the moment I was like, oh, cool. But then in the moment I had forgotten that Stevens College is actually an all-girls school.
Now he's saying he's a PA, that he's Dr. Gleason's PA, that he's going to come do our procedures. I was like, the kid looks 12 years old. I just don't believe anything he's saying.
After this interaction and a quick search by the nurses of Bailey's social media, they determined that he was not who he said he was. He was then escorted out, and his badge access was disabled.
I feel bad because I kind of like fell for it. I was like, oh yeah, because like who does that? Like who has the idea to go into a hospital and be like, I'm going to be a doctor today?
Again, those interviews were performed by detectives the week after he was found out by those nurses at the end of April last year. It seemed like 17-year-old Zachary Bailey was finally exposed, and law enforcement was notified the very next day. But that's far from the end of this story. Before he was arrested, Bailey appeared to be trying to impersonate a deputy as well. We'll have the rest of that story next.
Was finally found out, and his badge to enter into the hospital deactivated.
I knew that I was the person that issued the badge.
Right.
And what goes through my mind is, were any patients harmed? How bad is it for the hospital?
The volunteer coordinator that issued Zachary this badge was fired that very same week, another consequence of Bailey's actions. But now it was up to CCPD to track this kid down. Luckily, they knew that he lived at Encore Crossing apartment complex, thanks to a traffic violation just weeks earlier. Officers decided to make contact with Bailey, but did not yet have a warrant for his arrest. He was with his 15-year-old girlfriend, whose mother told officers, quote, "This sounds like a movie." Officers then impounded Bailey's BMW, took back the CCMC badge Bailey was using to access the hospitals, and recovered a bag of scrubs the detectives said were stolen. Just days later, officers went to check back in at the apartment complex only to find that Bailey had moved out, leaving a $3,700 bill. But after interviewing all of the witnesses, gathering all of the evidence, and acquiring a warrant, it was finally time to arrest Bailey. What happened next, though, was quite the surprise. It happened right here at the Sharpshooter. An off-duty officer recognized Bailey at a separate gun store and was told he was making his way to this location. He was arrested without incident, although they found on his person what's called a ghost gun, or a homemade firearm, of course without a serial number. Here in the state of Texas, it is legal for those 21 and older to own such a firearm, although for the 17-year-old, it was illegal. He was also driving an old Crown Vic police interceptor with a radio as well as a spotlight on the side of the car commonly used by law enforcement. And when officers searched his then hotel room he was staying at, they found a Sam Brown gun belt, a bulletproof vest, ammunition, more stolen scrubs, as well as a t-shirt depicting the word sheriff. The investigators' notes say that because of all this, they feel he may have been, quote, preparing to impersonate a peace officer since his PA impersonation was revealed, end quote. Bailey was arrested in June, and after being released on bond, he was arrested yet again just a month later after 192 violations of a GPS tracking system. From there, he was released on bond yet again in October, and in December pled guilty to a third-degree felony of physician's assistant without a license. Now, Bailey won't be serving any jail time, though. He's being given what's called deferred adjudication. Basically, that means as long as he faithfully serves his community supervision, it won't go on his permanent record after 6 years. You'd think that'd be the end of the story, though, but because of social media, I was able to track him down in Oklahoma City with a new girl. The videos show displays of affection, a new apartment, flashing cash, and a new ring, and at least one video shows that he's still donning scrubs. The investigators don't know where the cash is coming from. After reading through his conditions of community supervision, it looks like he was not supposed to leave the state and check in monthly. So 6 Investigates contacted the Community Supervision's department, who thought Bailey was still here in Nueces County. They discovered that he was in fact in Oklahoma, and the other week appeared in court where Judge Nanette Hassett told him to remain in Texas until given permission to move out of state. Well, there it is. That's the story so far of Zachary Brent Bailey. But so many questions remain. Like, why did he pretend to be a physician's assistant if he wasn't getting paid for it? What was his end goal? What other schemes might he have been doing to afford this lifestyle? And what is law enforcement doing to stop him? Now, I have reached out to Bailey, who refuses to do an interview with me. Same can be said with the hospitals, who don't want to speak with me about the incident. So for now, it looks like we'll have to keep a close eye on now 18-year-old Zachary Bailey. For 6 Investigates, Brian Hoffman.